time coming. It's time to finally review the Promaster van build that we did. Not only because we want to show off all the hard work that went into making this and how well it all worked out months on the road, but also this is for sale now. So if you're watching this video, this van is for sale as you see it, and we'd love to take some offers on it. So first off, what van is it? It's the Dodge Promaster. It's a 2021. We bought it brand new. So this van, although it has been used a little bit, still has its full warranty for the drivetrain, which is, I think, a huge bonus. But yeah, this is a brand new van. It's the 159-inch wheelbase model. We picked this van because we thought it would be easier to manage in tight spaces, park, drive in rough weather, and all of that ended up being true. So it's front wheel drive. It has an extremely tight turning radius. For example, we also have the Sprinter van behind us. This van turns much tighter and is significantly easier to park than that one is. So that worked out. Almost everything about the exterior of the van is stock, with the exception of the fact that we obviously added things like the awning. This is a custom install. We can take a look at it in a little bit. The whole rack of the van, the roof rack of the van, I custom built out of 80/20 extruded aluminum. So I custom built the rack, and it's mounted with stainless steel fittings directly to the factory mounts of the van. It's holding all the solar panels, and it's got an elevated channel that holds the awning itself. Cool thing about the way we did that is you can actually deploy the awning with the side door open because it sits up high enough. The awning itself, you can see here, it's the Fiamma F80s in titanium. We went with the manual crank on this just to have less stuff to have to potentially break on it. It's super easy to just roll out. I custom installed the post mounts onto the van. So although you can actually run this out and stake it to the ground, it's much easier just to attach it right to the side of the van, and you can adjust the arms to get the angle you want, and it does its thing. Underneath the awning, we've got the addition that we did, which is I installed a sliding glass window with a screen on here. This is important because there's a fan inside, a Maxxair fan, and that pushes a ton of air. You have to have an equal volume of air available to really push that through, and it's at the opposite end of the cabin from where the fan is. So this van stays very cool. It stays wherever you're at. It's as cool as shade would be in here, which is great. The window itself looks sick. It's just a one-piece glass with the slider inside. You pop that screen out, you could have a little taco serving station out of here if you wanted to. So this came out really nice. I don't think if a factory had did it, it would be any better. So that's the window. So on the other side of the van, you get to see something that took an insane amount of engineering and effort to pull off, but I'm extremely proud of, and that is the custom rack that I built. I extended it on the driver's side a little bit to accommodate the largest Yakima SkyBox you can possibly get, or rocket box. This adds a ton of extra secure storage. So this thing is relatively aerodynamic, totally secure. You can fit tons of stuff. You could honestly fit a small family into this thing. It's friggin' huge. I got this thing used, but I bought and installed brand new updated spring hinges on it. It's got good working locks and latch on it, and we get to it with this extendable telescoping ladder that's super easy to pull out the back and run up. The benefit of doing this instead of having a ladder mounted to the van, one, the van stays more aerodynamic, which is better for fuel economy and top speed. Also, your stuff's more secure, because if the ladder's locked up inside, how is someone going to get up to your box to break into it to steal your stuff? So this has been a great setup for that. And here, come along with me and I'll show you what it looks like up top. So easy and secure as you come up, and as you can see, tons of storage in here. It's really easy to get in and out of. Those are the updated spring hinges, much more reliable than the weird parallelogram options that originally came with it. Let's talk about the beginnings of the solar system. So up top here on the custom aluminum extruded setup, again the 80/20 aluminum rack that I custom built, is 400 watt Renogy panels. So we actually have 400 watts of solar making juice up here. and I can tell you it does an exquisite job of powering up the battery system. Totally secure. It's as low profile of a mount as I could manage, again, to keep the fuel economy as good as possible. I mentioned before, we mounted the Maxxair fan off center. I did that for 2 reasons. I figured it would get a draft off of the rocket box, which would help with fuel economy. Also, it's mounted off center so that it can be right over the your face when you're sleeping. So if it's super hot, you can have air pushing right down on you to cool you down. And you can see from here, you can see the custom setup that is the mounts for the awning. All the hardware is stainless steel or the anodized aluminum that comes from 80/20. Okay, I'm excited to show off this part of the van. Let's take a look at the back. These ProMasters come with these, I believe it's 270-degree hinges. So they stop here, but they also swing all the way out. And one nice thing about that is the way we built this bed, which is a full-size bed, plenty of room for 2 people and a puppy dog if you want. It means that you can sleep and have this just amphitheater of nature, which is pretty awesome. Fresh breeze, pretty cool. From the factory, the glass came super tinted, so we just left that. It was perfect. Everything in this van has been insulated with rock wool. If you aren't familiar with rock wool is literally wool made from stone and recycled metal. The benefit of this, it's super light. It's the best sound damping you can add to the van. It hates mildew. It doesn't care about moisture, and no animals had to be hurt or used or abused in the making of the material. It actually is recycling some of it. I believe it's basalt rock is one of the main ingredients. So we have insulated all of the panels, including the custom upholstered panels that we created. Added some shoe storage that can come or go. So as we get in here, you can see, if you look at the floor, let's start there. We got lucky with this van. We had a choice between a white and a black one. We chose the black for obvious reasons. It's cool. Also, it came with the factory floor. And this is like an embossed marine grade plywood base. And what we did is we actually peeled the entire thing up, which was no small feat, insulated underneath it with the rock wool, and then reinstalled it with a slight elevation. So this is part of how this van is so easy to temperature control, keep warm or keep cool. There is plenty of room back here in the storage or the garage. If you want to run bikes, which we have done for Ava, you can run a bike front to back here. My suggestion for this van, unless you're living in it long term and worried about your bikes, I would put a hitch on here and put a bike rack on it and leave all of this space open to you. I do want to point out there's no hitch on this van. That's good news for you if you're thinking about buying the van. That means you know the van has never towed anything. So transmission is choice, okay? Now, let's start with the water system. We've got a 25-gallon tank of water in here. And what I've done is just, pipe that all with proper PEX fittings, running it through a C-flow pump with a little bit of a filter strainer, and this is what powers the sink. Super simple, there's nothing extra. This van does not have a hot water heater that could easily be added, but one thing that's important to note with this van, if you look over here, this van is 100% electric. All right, so before I get into the electric, one thing you'll notice, I keep talking about the insulation, and I'm going to, for the whole video, we kill matted the wheel wells, and this is a sound damping insulation that helps keep the van quiet when you're driving. This is also lining all of the doors, all of the open exposed steel panels are kill matted and have the insulation that we talked about. From back to front, you'll see I've got a little utility light here, battery switcher, and then all of the electric. Everything is fused and on breakers. The 110 that's coming off of the inverter, which is a 3000 watt inverter, I have a proper house style breaker panel for. And that breaker panel runs some 110 plugs up front, so you can plug in all your laptops and everything. Also, the breaker is for the inverter stovetop, which we'll show you. If you know anything about lithium ion batteries, you know that this is a pretty sweet setup. So these are Battleborn's 100 amp hour batteries, 3 of them. This is enough. If the van is fully charged, you could operate this van for 3, maybe even 5 days with no sun, as long as you got that full charge. To charge it up, we've got the Renogy MPPT solar charger that matches the panels. And if you've got direct sunlight, these things charge super fast. For the inverter, this is the 3000 watt Renogy. It's got plugs up here so you can charge laptop you know, from the bed if you want. There's a remote switch to operate this up front, and that's actually the only way we ever turned it on or off. And 3000 watt sine wave is enough to power everything in this van easily. You got yourself a little 12 volt fuse panel and lots of grounding. Okay, so expanding on the charging systems here, you've got 2. You've got a ton of solar, 400 watts of panels pushing into these 300 amp hour batteries. And then we also have the LiBIM battery isolator. This particular isolator is specifically designed for lithium batteries, and so it runs on a 15-minute cycle. On and charges for 15, off for 15. It does that to keep from exploding your alternator. These lithium batteries can take so much charge so fast that if you didn't have that, you could literally just roast your alternator. So that's been great, protects it. If you were trapped in the dark for days on end and ran out of juice, just start up the van and top the batteries off that way. Okay, last thing for the back of the van, obviously we're gonna go inside the cabin and look at the bed frame, but I wanna show, I built most of the bed frame out of 80/20 extruded aluminum, same as what we did up top. So if you're interested in buying this van, this aluminum is gonna allow you to expand on the build if you want very easily. So you can buy fittings on Amazon for 80/20, and if you wanted to add panels, sliding doors, additional storage, you can go nuts with it. I built it so that the framing actually presses out into the sidewalls of the van and rests on this 2x12, or I think it's a 2x10 support that's resting on more supports. The bed is insanely secure and fairly easy to expand. And in fact, there's so much room up here, you actually could jam a queen size mattress in here as long as you shorten the length of it down to like 70 inches. Yeah, maybe 72 inches. One of the many big projects that were must-haves for this van is the screen. The screen has rare earth magnets running down the middle as a divider, so getting in and out is as easy as spreading it, or honestly you can just rump it. You just come out and back it out with the booty and you're out. The screen does a couple of things. Keeps the bugs out, which is great. It also helps keep your pets in, which is great. So the screen, not only is it easy in and out, it can actually be unzipped very easily, rolled out of the way, and then you have nothing. So if you don't want that, the screen though retains the size, the space of the full sliding door, which is great. Come on in. All right, so let's start with the cab. Okay, so first thing you're going to notice is I'm sitting in a seat that's facing backwards. This is massive for just opening up the usable space of your van. It's really easy to rotate. Here's the handle, pulls it around, full 360, so it doesn't have to face all the way back. You could also sit sideways. It's important to note that not only did we install the slider, we also installed a seat lowering kit. So the driver's side does not swivel, and yet they're both the same height. And that is just to make sure that the passenger is nice and comfortable. You could easily install a swivel and a lowering kit on the driver's side as well if you want. The reason why we didn't do that is because there's so much kitchen working and storage space back here. It just felt smart to leave that open. While I'm in the cabin, as far as a Promaster build is concerned, or just a Promaster van, you know, as it is, I'm just going to give you my opinion on the overall driving comfort of the van. It's got tilt wheel, cruise control. The stereo controls are really nice, touch screen. You can operate volume and advanced tracks off the steering wheel, which is great. We put a new windshield in here, so should have great visibility. It's pretty comfortable. The sound system is nice. The cruise control works great. There's USB charging, to run your phone. AC pumps out. There's not much to say other than it all works and works good. The mirrors are huge, which turns out to be a benefit, one, and you can see everything alongside it when you're driving. And if you're gonna add a hitch and tow with this, those I believe are wide enough to be legal for tow mirrors, which is a nice add-on. All right, so since we're still in the front of the van, it's a good time to talk about the Webasto heater that we installed. So if you're not familiar, the Webasto is an air heater where it pulls fresh air and exhausts all underneath the van. So no exhaust and no risk to you inside of the van. And it's actually running off of the gasoline in the gas tank. So you can run this thing for weeks and not have a problem. It's got a very low consumption rate. And just to be clear, this isn't a China knockoff. This is the high-end Webasto. So it's actually controlled with a rheostat knob up here on the side. And it's as easy as on and off by just turning that knob. And once she fires up and starts pumping heat out, this vent you can rotate where you want. And then I just custom made this little panel here, and it's all back there. It's quiet, you barely hear the motor whirring, and the heat that comes out is not only enough to make it hot inside of the van, it's important if you're looking at buying this van and you live in a colder, wetter climate, it actually dries out the inside of the van. The way that it pulls fresh air over the heat exchanger, it actually dries out the entire van. So this is a great station to dry your wet clothes, and this is why this van doesn't have a mildew problem, is because you got this dang heater down here drying it out so much. Okay, before we leave the cabin, one of the things that I was so appreciative when we bought this van is it already came with a headliner storage setup. In our other van, I had to build this myself, and it was sort of a pain. So yeah, just a lot of extra storage up here, which is great. And it's insulated. So one of the things when we built this, when I installed the cedar ceiling, which obviously is insulated heavily above, I also pulled back and put in kill mat and insulation here to help try and keep the van cool when it's hot, when there's a lot of sun, but also quiet when you're driving. All right, so before we get into the whole kitchen, I want to explain, since it's just sitting here, this table. This is a Lagoon table. Lagoon is famous for making these articulating arms that you can build a custom table for sailboats. And I know a lot of van builders use these now. We've got a little bit of a unique twist that I want to show you on here. So Momski used it like 100% of the time here in this location, and she liked it because it allowed her to, it complemented her cooking. It was more counter space for her. If she had a lot going in both burners, she could actually rotate it away and create separate counter space up here. If instead of cooking, she was just doing some projects, folding laundry, whatever, this opens up into a larger table and is, again, just all this additional workspace. What's extra unique about this table, and by the way, I made the table out of poplar, and it's sealed real nice, and it's got a good stainless hinge on it. But what's unique about this thing is you can remove it very easily, slide it out, bring it on over here, and install it in a secondary location. Now, what's really cool about this setup, which if I had been using the van, this is probably where I would have left it most of the time. This allows you to sit here and have a workspace. Again, it opens up for lots of workspace. It also works so that if two people want to dine and hang out, it's a table between the two. And if you want to come around here, I'm going to show everyone something I really like. Take the swiveling seat, slide it forward, take this here, open it up, and you got yourself an eating or a workstation. So I don't know if you can imagine the view I'm taking in right now, but I could be here working on the computer in an extremely comfortable reclining chair while I'm looking out into that. So we're starting with the kitchen stuff. First up, this induction stove. If you're not familiar with an induction stove, this works with a magnetic resonance. So you have to use pans that have ferrous metal on the bottom. That means you could use like a steel cast iron pan if you wanted to, and the van will actually come with a whole pot and pan kit that's specifically designed to work on this, which is great. We love this because of how easy it is to clean. it heats up. Like for instance, if you're boiling a pot of water, it's crazy. Like it is so fast, so easy to manage. We had one of these in our last house and decided it'd be cool to put in the van. So it's this easy. You turn on the inverter via the remote here. So by me hitting that, there's now juice to the outlets, and you can hear that the induction stove has cycled up. I hit power, and you have separate controls for each unit. They won't turn on, they won't do anything until a you know, steel pan is on them. But this thing has a locking function so that your pets and kids can't turn it on. It's got a timer on it. And again, you can run both of these at the same time. You could be boiling water and making a pasta if you want. Let's just take the entire kitchen, or galley if you will, since we're boat people now, and I'm gonna go from top down on this. So top is a reminder that the ceiling of the entire van is done in untreated cedar. That keeps it fresh. The reason why you do the cedar, fun tip, is it's basically the lightest wood you can put up here that's structurally sound. All of the lights are LED and they're done in zones. So there's switches back here we'll show you later, but you can actually turn on or off lights all in zones. It's not all on just one thing. The cabinetry, I built all the cabinetry. It's all pocket screw and glued. It's mostly poplar. We have these marine grade latches to secure the doors when they're closed, and gas struts, which make opening and securing. And the truth is when they're closed, the struts hold well enough that you don't even really need the latches to keep stuff secure. Nice and deep. We upholstered the walls with a there's actually an expensive high-end upholstery that we got, and we just thought it would create like a great vibe. We've noticed that you can clean it off, which is good. So we left it exposed. So you'll see in the cabinet, it's you know, there's nothing back there. You just, you know, go straight back to, and it's easy access to any of the wiring that might be running through. It's not like hidden and hard to get to. You still can. As far as the cabinets, they have two bottoms on them. So one bottom is the floor for all your stuff, and then there's this piece here, which obviously has the lights in it. So it's about this thick down there. So there's room to run more wiring if you want to. Okay. Again, as we work our way down, we have the backsplash. I want to be clear, the backsplash is actual tile, and it's put in with a flexible sealant so that it's not going to crack since it's in a van. And if you ask me, it looks amazing. Like, it looks so cool. And I framed the whole thing with oak just to give it a nice look, and that should be super durable. The countertop itself is I believe it's maple plywood, so a hardwood plywood. And basically what we did is we messed with it and roughed it up to give it sort of a vintage barnwood vibe. And I framed the entire thing in stained oak, and that was to give it basically a spill gap. So if you have any spills, this framing should keep it in place. I've never seen someone frame a counter like this. It just seemed like a cool idea. The sink, this is a stainless steel, nice and deep square. It's got its own cutting board that fits into it. It's got a strainer washing insert in there. It's got a basket tray to keep your stuff off the bottom. This is nice. It's a Ruvati. This thing was expensive. The water extends. It's got the washer. This thing's sick. And what's really cool from an aesthetic standpoint is it's basically the same dimensions as the stovetop. So that's part of why this counter looks as clean as it does. Okay, let's keep going down. We have storage. This is something unique that I did again, it's not a thing I've seen someone do before. We got the sink in the middle, so we can't really have a drawer here, obviously, but you'll notice the drawer, because of the sink in the middle, well, the way the drawer is set up, it's sort of a false front, right? So tons of storage in here, all on a nice heavy-duty slider. And then down below, very exciting, I believe this is the biggest Iceco fridge you can get, the 65 liter. If you're not familiar with Iceco fridges, they use the exact same Danfoss compressor that Dometic fridges use. So it's basically the same thing as far as I'm concerned. Easy to operate panel. It's got eco mode or full power mode. You can run both chambers separately. You can make either one a freezer, both a freezer, or not. And it's got a low battery cutoff that you can set, medium, low, or high. So you can actually set it so that the fridge will turn off and doesn't drain your batteries all the way down, which I don't think you're gonna find is an issue. So there's a latch here for when you're motoring just to keep it secure, but actually the way the sliders are set up, it's really secure. They're the slow grab in the back. You'll see them in action here in a moment. If you switch with me, we'll operate it. So this was a lot of engineering to get the biggest possible fridge into here to fit the dimensions I had scaled out. It all worked great. So you just pull it out. It comes out all the way on the stopper. It's enough room to be able to open the tops and just leave them. And these fridges are great. It comes with these baskets, so if you're actually loading up for a trip, you can take the entire basket out into the house with you, load it up, and then just drop it into place. And you can see the full side. It's huge. There's a ton in these things. We've been using these in each of the vans for over a year, no problems. And so look, man, this fridge unit is so easy to get into while you're working or loading from the grocery store. And look how easy this is put back. By the way, this thing weighs like 170 pounds, totally full. No problem. Close it, latch it, and that's it. Stoked. Opposite of the galley is storage and is the compostable toilet. Also, this map will come out and expose, so if, whoever picks this van up next, just more of this nice upholstery. There's room though to put a fun piece of art. This is just a map of where the van's been, which is pretty neat. Before we get into here, finishing touches, you can just see we added some treatment, some more cedar to round out this space. Went through all the effort to adhere the upholstery to try and make it as seamless as possible. And then over to this cabinet. The cabinet, this is the only cabinet without struts because it's too small, but it's a great like bathroom overflow storage spot. And then working down, we have this. So in here, you know, padded seat, opens up, huge storage bay. Nothing real special here, just tons of storage. This entire thing was built out of poplar, and I built it with these sections of poplar to give it sort of a crate feel. On this side is the compostable toilet. So friction tape up here to make it easier to get in and off of the bed. You got this secure latch, which essentially makes the compostable space airtight. When you open it up, you got your toilet. So yeah, you could be like finishing making some coffee and doing your business here. The composting toilet has the option to drain the urine, so it's got a urine divider. The urine can either go into a container inside of this box, or it goes out the bottom of the van. When it goes out the bottom of the van, we actually have a small like gas can container we use that we put the hose into. So wherever we're camped, a Walmart parking lot, campgrounds, or whatever, that pee just goes into that can, and that thing's super easy to safely dump wherever. So that's great. As far as the solid waste, when it goes in, we store a little bit of coconut composting material, and after you've done your business, you just take a little handful, toss it in there. No odors whatsoever. So not only does that already not smell because the composting separates the urine from the solids, but there's also a fan that is continuously evacuating air out and through the bottom of the van, and it's sealed, so it works great. And then here's how easy it is to get in there and service it. It's like a double clamshell as far as hinges, and this is just a big old 5-gallon bucket with the separator. So you've got a canister over here you can drain into through the floor, and there's valves to easily, like ball valves, to just switch between through the van or into the container. And you can use composting bags, regular trash bags, or you could go raw bucket, which would allow you to just dump into a you know, if you dig yourself a cat box outside and dump it in. This thing in both of our vans has worked perfectly. Now we're looking at the elevated bed space. The bed is set up as low as you can possibly get it, but still fit a bicycle underneath, which obviously comes in handy. You want to do that. You want to get it as low and as thin as possible so you have as much room to be comfortable in here. This bed is low enough and the van is tall enough you can sit up and read. We have reading specific light in the back corner, which is great. All the cabinets are all the same stuff, right? Poplar, gas struts, deep, tons of storage. I did one on this and it went really deep with it, assuming that you would sleep with your head over here, and that's worked out great. And we talked about the Maxxair fan that's on a remote. And so that thing does an incredible job of keeping the van cool. And again, like we had talked about, I highly recommend, if you're doing your own van build, mounting a fan over the sleeping space is just great on a hot day or hot night, keeping things nice and cool. The bed frame itself, as we had mentioned, is the extruded aluminum, and it's on top of some just some like pine slatting, which makes it comfortable. And the mattress is a combination of firm foam with memory foam topper on top of that. So it's actually extremely comfortable. It's very quiet in here. It stays cool. The lighting is nice. And the last thing from the bed space is you've got the control panel for all the electrical here. So there's a little night flap, so you can see the condition of the batteries. You've got USB, you've got a 12-volt socket, and you got access to all of your light panels and water pressure and the fan that's in the composting toilet. So the views are great. The bed's incredibly comfortable. I'm 6 feet tall and I just fit width, you know, the width of this bed and can sleep comfortably. And that's one of the cool benefits of doing a ProMaster build. The walls actually go almost straight up from the base. So the space you have at the wheel wells is carried over up top, and that allowed us to build the bed widthwise to preserve maximum space in here. So lots of just forethought going into how can we get you the most usable space out of the van. So part of the comfort of, you know, the bed's great. You also have a lot of operation at your fingertips, because with the switch panel where it is, you can see here, I can control all of these individual zones from one spot. So if it's nighttime and I just want to do some reading, I can turn on just this light right here and read. And by the way, that light also extends into this cabinet. So I've actually got some lighting here where I've stored my clothes. So it helps you keep incognito when you're stealth camping somewhere and have those lights on. But when it's time to fire up the whole thing, it's daytime bright in here with all these LEDs. All right, so thanks for watching the video. If you are thinking of doing your own van build or modifying the one that you have, hopefully you got some inspiration with what we did here. But just to point out, this van is for sale. You can own this van. This van is a year old. The mileage is within warranty. We bought it brand new and it's been maintained in that brand new condition. Everything inside works perfectly, looks great. We only used it for 7 or 8 months out on the road, and it's in terrific condition. Everything works. The solar system is impeccable, and there's tons of room for expansion and flexibility. This could be used as a liveaboard, which is what we did. This could be turned into a weekender. I want to point out, if you're a bike enthusiast, I would put a rack on here so you can load 5 or 6 bikes and have all of that storage for your gear. And also for anyone who's thinking about with kiddos that they need more seating, it would be extremely easy to pop out this bench here and replace it with a bolt-in bench seat with seat belts, and you could turn this into a weekender you know, rig for the family if you wanted to. So there's a lot of options and upgrades that you can make. It's flexible.
So Dan took you guys through all the details, all the nitty gritty, and we're just gonna show you guys this thing packed up. So here she is, loaded down in the back with all the stuff. Now let's go over to the person who actually owns this van,
which is me.
And Lala doesn't own the van, but she has certainly enjoyed
she
it.
Owns the van, so. Yeah. I'm gonna be missing this van. I'm gonna missing this van more than I miss my house. I lived in like 20-something years, honestly, because that was fun and that was like really. I mean, it was fun and that was challenging and that was kind of unexpected and that was, you know, a bunch of different things. Depends when you go.
And you did it with this dog over here.
I did.
And you lived side by side,
yes,
in total comfort.
Yes. Yes, with it. You can see this is all comfort. She doesn't pay attention to us that much.
All right, let's lock this thing down so she's ready to roll.